Hey everyone, welcome to Unique Ways with Thomas Gerard, an audio podcast. Got a really great guest on today, and I'll describe her. She grew up in the countryside on a small island in Denmark. Everyone knew each other in their village, all the kids played together, and looking back, it felt like every day was sunny. In 2017, she graduated from the Royal Danish Academy of Art and Design and immediately packed her bags and headed to Vancouver, Canada. Since then, she's been home and she's carved out a wonderful career as an illustrator, lettering artist, and all-around creative. Please join me in welcoming Julie Solvstrom. Welcome.
Thank you so much. That was a great introduction.
Are you ready for 20 questions?
Yes, yeah, so ready.
Okay, question one. Tell me a little bit more about yourself. What do you do?
I mean, you summed it up pretty well, but I work as a lettering artist and illustrator, and like you said, I'm originally from Denmark, but I've lived here in Vancouver for the past 5 years with a little COVID break in the middle. And I mean, I don't know, I'm sure most of your listeners will know what lettering is, but to anyone who doesn't, it's basically the art of like drawing words or phrases from scratch. And I've kind of nicely niched down in that and also working in illustration. But yeah, that's it.
Great. Just note for the audience, if you're looking for a cool related 2024 episode, check out our episode with Jessica Hish. She also does lettering.
Mhm.
Question two, what's a key piece of knowledge that makes you different?
Yeah, this was an interesting one. I don't know if it qualifies as a piece of knowledge, but I think what came to mind was my background in graphic design. So I worked as a graphic designer for 9 years, mostly in branding before going into lettering. And I can see how that has like plays in my work in just understanding visual hierarchy, like having a really good knowledge of color theory, and kind of working more as a problem solver than as a visual artist.
Mm.
And I think it also gave me a really strong foundation in typography. And actually, funnily, because I know you've had him on the podcast before, Arndt Klaus, who's a
Mm.
art director here in Vancouver. I used to work for him, and I think I owe him a lot of kind of building a good foundation. Yeah, before going out on my own.
Nice. Yeah, I love art. Great. Okay. Question three, why this of all things? Why do you do what you do?
Yeah, and this is maybe gonna sound really cheesy, but there's just no way I couldn't. Like, I think this is if nobody ever paid me any money to do this, I would still do it. It is so much fun. It's the only thing I want to do. Like it's bordering on the obsessive. But yeah, I just can't do it. I'm so interested in it. I have done it for so long, and I just like it more and more as time goes on.
Mm.
I think I am somebody that's a little bit prone to getting really excited about something and then kind of losing interest a little bit over time. And for some reason, with lettering and illustration, that just has not happened yet, and hoping it stays that way.
Nice. Yeah. One more note for the audience. Another lettering artist, Martina Flor, was on an early episode. Check that one out as well. So question four is a little bit difficult. The question is, what does your future look like?
Yeah, I think I would like it to look a lot like the present, which is maybe a boring answer, but I am really happy with how it looks right now. And if it could look like that in 20 or 50 years, that would be completely fine with me. I am really so guided by kind of interest and curiosity. And if I can get to keep doing that for the rest of my life, I would be a happy gal.
Mm.
And also I do not plan ahead, which my parents will will second. I'm
Mm.
not a planner. I really spend very little time kind of thinking super long term,
Mm.
which is good and bad. So it's not really in my nature to think so much about what the future looks like, other than I'd like there to be creativity and I'd like there to be like the outdoors and a healthy body. That's maybe my top wants and wishes.
Great. Five we say is unique to the show. The question is, let's talk about location. How does the notion of place play into what you do?
Yeah, I really like this question. I thought it was super interesting. I think what first came to mind was more like physical place and home and I think I live in one of the most beautiful places in the world. I live in Vancouver, British Columbia, which is kind of a mecca of mountains and rivers and the sea, and it's just an absolutely gorgeous place. And the natural world plays a really big role in my work. Like I draw a lot of florals and a lot of animals, and the outdoors and nature is just an endless source of inspiration. So my physical place living here has a really big impact on what I draw and kind of the motives I pick and even sometimes the words I choose. I love poetry and I have a particular soft spot for poets that write about nature, like Mary Oliver and Patrick Atuma, and I their words will sometimes kind of guide the artwork as well. So yeah, I I love living in a gorgeous place and I just put that down onto paper.
Great. And six, if you had to start from the beginning, what advice would you give your former younger self?
I mean, I try not to, this is going to contradict a little bit about not thinking too much about the future, but I think I would try to worry a little bit less about what things looked long term. I think when I was at art school, I spent a lot of time almost imagining like what I would be doing at 45 and being a little bit stressed about the fact that that was a really long journey, getting from like in your 20s art student to having built a career. And yeah, so worrying a little bit less and kind of being a bit more in the what am I interested in right now and letting that guide me instead of what's gonna like put food on the table and where is it gonna happen? So yeah, be a little bit more present perhaps.
Mm. What's a day in your life like?
Uh, so my work days are pretty similar. Like I try and get some physical movement in the morning. So I'll be at the gym or a run. I'm also part of a really lovely sailing club. So in the summer, I'll usually try and get a paddle in, like get out in the kayaks or something in the morning. And then I'll spend most of the day. I'll usually go to a cafe and draw. That's kind of my little addiction. So I draw on an iPad, which is really handy because you can take it with you. And then I have a really lovely studio space here in Vancouver, so I'll spend like kind of the 11 a.m. till 5 p.m. here. And then evenings, something social usually. I'll meet up with friends or I don't know, like go for a hike or in the winter, maybe go skiing in the evening.
Mm.
And weekends are usually outside somewhere.
Great. Eight, lifelong learning is a popular topic. How do you stay up to date?
So I do try and do things that kind of lie outside my normal practice. And I am definitely a learning by doing kind of gal. So last year I did public speaking for the first time at a big conference in Brisbane, which was all kinds of terrifying. And there was so much regret leading up to it. But I mean, it was so rewarding and an incredible experience, but it was also humbling in learning a very new skill, like how to do public speaking and how to put together a narrative that people are going to find interesting. And yeah, I think that I don't think I knew fully what I had gotten myself into when I agreed to do it. I also did my first mural, so a lot of learning of like how to paint big scale, which I don't know if you've ever looked at a mural and just try to imagine how they do it, and it is a little bit crazy that the people that are good at murals, how they do it, because you're standing close to the wall, you have no idea what's happening on the rest of the wall. It is kind of a bit of a magical thing. And people who are good at it are magicians in their own right. But I learned, and I did walk away having at least a little bit better grasp of how to paint big scale. And then next week I am starting a 2 months residency here in Vancouver, where I'll be learning things like woodworking and laser cutting and 3D printing and ceramics. It's kind of like a course in all of them where you get an introduction to it, just to broaden my practice a little bit and work a bit more with my hands instead of mainly digitally.
We had Timothy Goodman on really early on, who does these really great large scale murals in New York City.
Hmm.
Number nine, tools. Do you use both digital and analog tools?
I 90% of my work is done on an iPad, so mostly digitally, very little analog, which is something I am actively trying to change. I would like that to be more close to like 60-40%, because there is something special about working with your hands. And when I first started illustrating, I would usually draw in a notebook, and I can feel myself having become a little bit lazy after working digitally, because you can change everything so fast. It's very forgiving. Um, there's something a bit more precious, I think, in a good way, about working on with paper in working analog.
Great. And work-life balance. How do you deal with it?
Um, I think I'm pretty good at it, and I make no active effort to do it. I think it just kind of works out pretty naturally. I do stick to roughly like a 9 to 5 work schedule, which usually looks more like 10 to 5:30, and sometimes shorter. I think I'm like equally excited about drawing as well as like social active life. So there was just I just wouldn't function if by only working. Like I kind of envy and maybe romanticize people who would like do a 12-hour like work shift, and they'll kind of buckle down for 3 days of work. And I just can't do that. It just doesn't happen. I need to get outside and I need to see people. And so I think naturally I get to the afternoon and I feel pretty done, like thinking creatively, and then at that point I'm kind of ready to talk to people or go and use my body somehow. So yeah, it seems to just work out pretty effortlessly. Yeah.
Great. If you weren't doing what you do now, what might you be doing?
Yeah. This is a good question. That would be a very sad day. I kind of got sad thinking about that. But I don't know, maybe like a ranger in a national park, like kind of being outside all day. I like the idea of that. I did meet one, and while it all sounded wonderful and he did seem like a very happy man, I think it's also a pretty solitary thing. I think you spend a lot of time by yourself. So I don't know. That might not be for me.
Hmm. What would you not like to do with your career?
Yeah, you know what I don't want? I would not want to be a parking enforcement officer in Denmark, because parking tickets in Denmark are hundreds of dollars. They're they're so expensive, and people just are not like that fond of parking ticket uh officers. So I applaud anyone who can do it. I think with my I'm too sensitive and frail. I think I would crumble.
How about a favorite word, quote, or sentence?
Oh, I mean, I have so many. If you look in my work, that it's very heavily based on quotes. But one recent one that I really liked is it's one river gives its journey to the next, and I got it from a poem, and I can't actually remember where it came from, but I kind of like that it's this idea of flow and like a cycle of life, where one generation or phase like passes its experiences on to the next. And I think there's also this like shared legacy, that kind of like the idea of knowledge or impact of one entity that are carried forward to another, which I think is really really beautiful, kind of like a river passing its water to the next as part of a greater system.
Mm.
Um, and then also this like idea of collaboration where like an individual contributes something to a greater whole. And yeah, I don't know. I think that's it's a really I think that's you can read it in a lot of ways, and that's why I like it.
Mm. And a least favorite word, quote, or sentence?
Least favorite. So I don't love this like no pain, no gain. This, which I think is maybe a little bit outdated at this point, but it definitely had its heyday. I think just this like hustle culture and kind of glorifying hardship, and that in order to do something, it has to be hard. Otherwise, it doesn't have value. I think we can move away from that.
Mm. So you're choosing one word to describe yourself. What word do you choose?
Ah, I was gonna say happy, but I don't think that's entirely true. I'm not happy all the time. I think maybe curious. I think in life and work, I'm pretty curious. Yeah.
What keeps you up at night?
Um, very little. So honestly, nothing really. So there's this Danish word called sovehjerte, which means sleeping hard. And in Denmark, you would say if someone is really good at sleeping, you would say they have a good sovehjerte. So they have a good sleeping heart, which is, I think, what I do. I lay down the pillow and I am gone to the world. I pass out.
Mm. Awesome. Final stretch here. What's a dream you're facing?
Uh, you know what I would love to do a solo retreat somewhere, like somewhere secluded, like a cabin somewhere. Like I know Bon Iver did this, like he hid out in a cabin in for a week or two and wrote an album. I love that idea, like not having a brief or anything, but just going and being with yourself somewhere far away, maybe somewhere beautiful for a week. I think that would be wonderful.
Mm. What inspires you?
I mean, nature, I feel like I've already covered, but hearing somebody, and this could be anyone, talk about something they're really passionate about is one of the greatest things in life. You know, when they're so deeply into what they do. And that could be like Mongolian throat singing. It could be anything. If they're into it, that energy is, I find that so inspiring, and it makes me want to like work and yeah, I love that.
Great. And last couple here. Any advice you'd like to share?
Uh, I think as someone who was in some eyes maybe a little late in the game in finding out what I wanted to do in life, and that was both with graphic design and lettering. I was very much in my late 20s, early 30s before I kind of started down that track. I think just like that it's okay to do things a little late and to actually spend some time to figure out what you want to do, and keeping in mind that whatever you pick, you could potentially be doing for a really, really long time. So maybe there's not that big of rush to figure it out. I think overall, just slowing down a little bit, and and really focus in more on doing something you really love and you are excited about. And that could be your hobby. It doesn't necessarily have to be your job, but I think put some effort into exploring things and finding something you get excited about more than looking or more than thinking about what that's going to look like long term. So maybe thinking a little bit shorter term.
Mm. Great. And finally, number 20, how can our listeners keep tabs on you and what's our call to action?
So I am pretty active on Instagram. So my handle is Julie Solvstrom. That's pretty much it. I try to not like get onto too many social medias just because they can be a bit overwhelming. So yeah, that could go give me a follow there.
Mm. Great. Well, thanks so much for joining. We record out of Vancouver, so I'm here with you. So it's super cool to build out that angle, and so glad to have you on today.
Yeah, thank you so much.